My name is Melissa. I'm a barber, social worker, life coach, and writer, and this is Mel Talks. As an adult, we have a certain amount of authority and, parental action and attitude that we have over our children. But we have to remember that even though they're kids, they are tiny humans just like us. They're just younger in their years and haven't experienced the things that we've experienced. And they have some of the same emotions. They go through the same fears. Their bodies have the same reaction. There's no difference between the body's reaction and emotional activity between a child and an adult. Your brain and your body is still functioning to the same degree and responding to the environment in the ways in which it's been programmed to react. So it's important to remember that when your kids are, maybe acting out, or they're uncomfortable around certain people, or they're throwing temper tantrums, while sometimes it can be behavior, a lot of the times some of it stems from emotional issues and fear, especially with anxiety. Like when my daughter was younger, she would not be around anybody she did not know. I'm talking about even family members that she wouldn't see for a few weeks at a time. If they came back over and tried to hold her, she would scream, she would cry. She had some intense fear. And as a parent, it makes you feel like, why can't my kid be normal? Why can't you say hi? Why can't you speak? Why can't you go play with the other kids? But you got to understand that these kids are experiencing full fight or flight response in the same way as adults with anxiety experience fight or flight. So not only are they experiencing intense fear where they don't know how to react with strangers, and they have this attachment issue. In social work we talk about an attachment, and basically an attachment is the bond that a baby develops with a caregiver. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a parent, especially if that parent is not super active in a child's life, or there's somebody else who they are really engaged with and active with and they feel safer with. So that attachment is developed with the person who they feel most safest around. And if that attachment is not developed with the mom or the dad, the person who birthed this kid, then they might have other issues in their life because they don't feel safe and secure around their immediate caregivers. So that's why you get things like, social anxiety. I mean, as far as my situation and my daughter, when Desi was born, we lived with my ex's parents. So, while I was working and going to school and stuff, Desi was always with her grandma. So she developed that bond with her and felt safe, and, that's a different type of attachment, and that's okay. But Desi just became very anxious when it came to other people outside of us, and she also preferred her grandmother. So that's where she kind of built that bond. And it was rough because we would take her to little family events and stuff like that. She would freak out, and other people don't respond to that well either. They would like taunt her, or you know how adults are, oh, but you can't say hi, blah 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 blah, trying to mess with her, trying to pull her. But imagine you as a grown-ass adult feeling afraid, feeling anxious, feeling some type of way, and somebody's still poking at you and forcing you to be in this uncomfortable situation. Our kids are just like us, and just because we have that authority over them doesn't mean that we should force them to do things and be in situations that they feel completely uncomfortable. And then on top of that, not only are they feeling fear in this situation, now they're coming to you to look for safety, to look for peace, to look for reassurance, and you're yelling at them, you're angry with them. So it's like they're in a lose-lose situation all around. And in order to, start to help your child, you gotta find avenues of introducing different people to your child and making them feel safe, making them feel secure. It's a process. It's a long process. Like my daughter just now in the past few years of going to school and getting older and understanding her own emotions, she's a lot better. She's still not the most open social butterfly, but that's her personality. But at least she's able to speak to people. She doesn't feel, intensely afraid or intensely anxious. She can be in social settings. She can make friends. But people who don't deal with that issue, and people who don't feel safe in their environments, they don't feel safe at home, they don't feel safe at school, they always feel actively judged or in fear, it's like, it's hard to function. And in the environment that we're living in now, between social media and everything that's going on, you hear about all these school shootings, all this terrorism, and on top of that, the bad food that we're eating, it's like our bodies are constantly in a state of fear. And that affects not only us, it affects the people around us. If we're all connected spiritually and energetically, the things that we feel had the potential to project on other people. So, my daughter had her own issues, but it also might have been a result of her feeling my fear. I remember when she was younger, right? Let me tell you something funny. So, me and my ex first, got together, got pregnant, got married. Like, me and my ex-father-in-law, we weren't the best of friends. Like, when we lived together, he didn't really like me like that. And it is what it is. We were young, we were dumb, we made stupid decisions, and he probably wasn't fond of the decisions we were making. So that's cool. I mean, it is what it is. But when my daughter was first born and we were living with them, I feel like every time he was around, I would feel real anxious. I would be real tense. So I think my daughter picked that up, because anybody who looked like him, that was like tall, dark skinned, and had that same stature, I already told y'all she used to freak out. But when it was somebody like that, she used to freak out. Like, just looking at you, you could even pretend you was about to touch her, and she would start screaming and crying all crazy. And I used to be wondering, like, what the hell? How is she afraid of dark-skinned men more than she is scared of anybody else? And I just thought about this last year, like, when I started understanding how emotions are connected and how your children pick up on your energy. She probably, when I was holding her, breastfeeding her and taking care of her, and whenever he came around, she probably felt that I was really afraid. I was not afraid, but I was really tense and anxious, and I didn't feel comfortable. So she picked up on that. And that's how kids are. We think that, babies and kids, they're not going to remember that. They don't know how it's going to affect them, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, kids at that small, being a baby, that's when they're absorbing their environment the most. They're picking up on their parents' habits. They're picking up on our reactions, and they're learning how to react. And if you're constantly anxious and constantly in a state of fear, they're going to pick up on that, and they're going to pick up on how you interact with other people and what you're afraid of and what makes you feel comfortable, and they start picking up and they start resembling those same emotional reactions. And so when you see, we were doing this study in school where they were asking, it was a trauma, I guess the mom had got killed in front of the kids, and everybody said, of course, the older kids were probably way more affected than the baby. The baby was just laying in the crib. How's the baby going to be more affected? He don't really have no recollection of what was going on. But it turned out, after they studied that family, the baby was the one who had the most behavioral issues, mental health issues, because when you have to think about when you're born, your brain is smooth. You don't have all these imprints and emotional reactions. You're on a clean slate for the most part. And anything in your environment is what's imprinting on your brain. So even things subconsciously, like that we don't remember as adults or as older kids, some of that is still there, and it's reacting subconsciously. So that baby picked up on the hostility, the trauma, the amount of energy that was in the house, everything that was going on traumatic for those kids that actually seen it. That baby absorbed it. That baby subconsciously remembers it and picked up on a lot of the things that the child witnessed. So that child, when she turned 3 or 4 or 5, started having way more issues than the kids that were older and were able to process it and go to therapy and were a little bit older and able to understand things from a different perspective. Not saying that they weren't affected, but y'all got to remember that babies and kids and stuff are going to react and absorb these things going on in their environment just as much as anybody else. And it's important, because we have to start taking care care of our kids, man. This is why all the mental health we got going on now, by the time you hit puberty, it's like you got to have some type of emotional understanding. You got to understand coping skills. You got to understand how to express yourself. That's what I'm working on with my daughter now. She's also in therapy, and I'm also in therapy. We do family therapy sometimes together. But she's just the type of person that she can express anything happy. She can express joy or stuff like that, but to the minimal. But when it comes to any type of, negativity or angry or upset or mad, she like shuts down, and you can see it in her body language. Y'all got to be able to pay attention to the body language of your kids. When you're looking at your kids and you're talking to them, are they squirming? Are they going like this? Are they tapping their feet? Are they falling all over the floor? Are they playing with their hair? Are they easily distracted? Those are signs of an anxious child. Ask your kid to express how they're feeling. See, mine's like, I don't know. Like, ever. She never knows how she feels. So you have to find other ways of helping them to express themselves. Whether it's, here, draw this picture. Tell me what anger looks like. Draw a picture of what sadness looks like in your life. And you'll be surprised of the things they draw, how they represent the actual things that's going on in their lives. So you got to pay attention to little stuff like that. Because sometimes we go through stuff and we think that we're the only ones going through it, but our kids are watching, they're noticing. And if you have your own thing going on and you're not communicating with your child, that has the potential to grow into feelings of rejection or abandonment. Like, why am I not worthy of my parents' time? Why is my mom always sad? Why is my dad always upset? Why this? Why that? And they start internalizing that. And that's how that cycle continues of bad mental health and negative self-image and negative talks. Like that's what drives our everyday moves. That's what drives us is our thoughts. Our perception is what creates our reality. So if our kids are thinking, it's my fault that this is happening, or I'm a bad person, or I'm not good at school, or I'm not good at this, I'm not who my parents want me to be, then they're gonna feel invalidated. They're gonna feel fearful. They're gonna feel all these negative things. So we gotta be able to teach our kids how to feel validated in themselves and how to be worthy in themselves and not be constantly looking for validation from the outside world. This world has a lot of fear. It has a lot of anxiety, and it's just in everything we do. It's in TV, it's in social media, it's in the people, it's in us, and it's constant. So how do we start to combat that? We got to start to figure out how we can help our kids from a young age learn how to get to a state of peace. See, me and Desi, we meditate at least every other day. I take them to the gym with me sometimes. They do their own thing. Then we get home, we have dance parties. Whatever you got to do to help your kid be able to learn how to deal with their emotions and how to be able to live with themselves in a world that tells them that they got to be everybody but themselves is so important. I love that they have integrated mental health into the curriculum. Sometimes during the week, my daughter brings home worksheets on expressing different emotions and being able to